Good morning, everyone. Quite the interesting morning into Iceland at the moment. This is what is happening right now. This is live over, I believe it is Gragnavik, if I say it right, over into Iceland. But that is a live view where the volcano started erupting last night, early this morning. They've been talking about this for a while, that eventually would indeed happen. And sure enough, in fact, one of the fissures there is about 3.5 miles along that is on the side there of the actual volcano. Wild stuff. Pretty wicked there, right? All right, not as wild here, although, hey, we got a little bit of ice this morning. Some of that is from the frost that formed, and some of that actually ice crystals right on the windshield. And some of that has been from the sleet and snow we had last night. All right, I see a lot of 17s and 18s this morning across wave country. Let's see, 17. That was about 8:30 this morning for Terry, John. But what is that? 18 down to 2 bars down. Sorry about that. 23 now for Angie this morning as well. So we are going to have some of the lows here in just a second to show you across the area. Some of the numbers are still being finalized because it's still so early in the day. But I'll have those for you in a second. Angela over in Taylorsville, about 17 degrees. Yeah, it was cold, but nothing record breaking, right? It's just that we just haven't had too many mornings like this. So they do certainly stand out. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to recap briefly last night because it's interesting on last night's scenario with those last minute snow showers and bands that were able to survive throughout the early evening to mid-evening time period, which the data did great on yesterday. I'm picking out that would happen. And that was a concern that we even all were debating yesterday afternoon about whether or not we were going to keep the alert day going for at least near the metro all the way through the mid-evening period because we're concerned about slick roads. We didn't, of course, anticipate that the Waterson or the Snyder Freeway would end up being shut down for a while because of the ice. But still, you got to be careful in those kind of scenarios, right? I'm going to go through that, get through the Christmas change and the new data that's out that I think will be the overall winter pattern that we're going to be facing here over the next several weeks. A lot to discuss. Let's start, as always, with the snowboard for this time of morning. And we'll begin with one item, but it's one item that has 1 to 2 items within it. Oh, that makes sense. The reason why, it is an active setup on the southern part of the United States, including in our area. It's just too noisy, too hard to sniff out how many different waves or ripples we will have passing through, but they all have a general theme of having the potential for wintry weather. So I don't see us really entering that potential until we get past Christmas. So it will not be a white Christmas this year. It will indeed be a wet and green one. But once we get past the Christmas holiday, then things, of course, begin to evolve a bit more. I'll have more on that in just a second. But the snow last night, hey, it at least made it on the board. There you go. 1/10 of an inch of snow officially at Ollie International last night. That now puts our season total at 1/10. That is actually just barely below normal of about a half inch or so. I'll show you the map. In some cases over about 2 inches, depending on how you look at the season. As far as range, Weather Service, of course, they go by the meteorological winter stats overall of December through February. I like to look at the stats more of just what we get from mid to late autumn all the way through early spring, because that seems to be where winter really wants to show up around here, not in the middle. So that would encompass an average now for Louisville, since it's a 1991 through 2020 average of 13.4, which is what it's down over the past years before, but 13.4 is our general norm there. So yeah, we got some ground to make up on, right? So there's our 1/10 that we had for the snow season. But look at this. Look at the season totals in the region. We're not doing that bad when you look at our friends here, right? I mean, Cincinnati is almost to an inch. Jackson, almost a half inch. Lexington is probably the one that is still, the system's not working entirely great there. Right now, they're having problems with their sensor, so that may or may not be accurate. I'm not totally positive on Lexington's. But I know surrounding that, they did have close to an inch yesterday. So that's a bit of an exception there. And about a half inch in Charleston, West Virginia. When you compare that to where we should be, we are at 1.3 off the mark. Indy is nearly 4 inches off the mark. Illinois, 3.5. Bowling Green, not too bad, about a half inch. off the mark there. So everyone's down. There's no doubt. We know this. But it's not to an extreme deficiency yet. That will happen a little more into the mid to late January window if we don't get anything really. But at that point, you really will sort of see these numbers begin to climb. But so far, I mean, 1/10 of an inch, we'll take it. Not the greatest stuff there. Desiree, snow for us in the foothills here in Caldwell County in Lenore into North Carolina. Hello, North Carolina. Are you going to be there for Christmas? All right, very good. Well, I mean, you get some pretty snows in the mountains, and you're actually in a really good spot. You could get additional. It's maybe a little bit of a challenge in the foothills, but I do think you'll get at least some potential for some elevation snow not too far away from you. So it's drivable, right, to get to it. So not all bad news there. All right. The cold weather this morning was as a result of some of the combination that we've had of the clear skies, light winds, and then still some of the snow showers. Look at the snow there, Hubert's Orchard and Winery from last night. It moved through Clark County, still on the ground there at the moment. So, I mean, it's pretty sad, right? When we're looking at like little tiny patches of snow, like, oh, wow, it snowed. Made for a cold night. Now, Louisville's numbers, waiting for a new update. The last I had was 22, but we did drop below that mark when they do a half morning report of about 21. So I'll see if that gets readjusted to 21 later. Either way, it's not a huge ordeal. It's 1 degree. But 16 in Marion County, 15 in Salem. I did find a 12.5 into Meade County this morning. So there were some really cold spots. If we did have a little more snow on the ground, certainly, if we had a much lighter wind and a clear sky earlier, then these numbers would have been several degrees actually colder. So everything kind of played out to kind of balance out to where we thought they would be into the teens to lower 20s. All right, we haven't warmed up a ton. These are the current numbers. They will be updated in about 8 minutes. So I'm sure they're better than what this is, but still cold, right? 26 in Louisville, 19s are showing up from Seymour over into North Vernon. Okay, so nice and clear. The only thing I wish you guys could see, and I apologize because it's so hard on this image, but as the sun's coming up, there are about 4 or 5 streaks of snow on the ground you can see from space. There's like 1 or 2 here. There's certainly the one that really stands out right near Lexington to Richmond, Kentucky. And there's actually the one from last night. You could see going through Indiana right into Louisville to about Fairdale. It shows up on the satellite. I just don't have the detailed look here on this particular graphic to show you, but we are able to at least see the snow on the ground there. So that's pretty cool. It won't last. The sun's going to take care of that. Even though it's going to be a cold day, the sun will erase all this in just a few hours. Snow showers continue across the Appalachians into the Poconos area. Otherwise, very quiet, and warmer weather is coming back as we enter the Christmas holiday. So where's the cold? Where is the good stuff? Well, the cold is still locked up on the other side of the globe at the moment. You can see that core there. It's been ongoing right at really the North Pole. I mean, you gotta have cold for Santa, or he would complain. And trust me, you don't want to get an email from Santa. It can go either way, but usually it's not good. And then you get into the Russian territories, zones all the way into Siberia, and you run into very, very cold air. But the pattern is not still showing that this wants to move and dive south and east, which everyone's been waiting on to see. And the challenge here is like the EPO, which is one of our teleconnections. It is coming in negative. The Arctic Oscillation, the new numbers came in, or new charts came in, negative. PNA going positive, NAO going negative. All the teleconnections support a cold pattern for the eastern United States. So where is it? And that's a very good question. A lot of that has to do with the unusual impacts we're seeing from El Nino that it started here the past couple of weeks with the Pacific jet. But the challenge I'm noticing is we're not just getting a strong ridge that really needs to be here. We're still getting the troughs that are showing up around the Aleutian Islands in the western side here of Canada. That is still allowing systems to get pulled in quickly where the warm waters are taking place into the Eastern Pacific, allowing for low pressures to keep developing across the southern part of the United States. Yes, it's showing warmer temperatures into Canada, but it's warmer than normal. Okay, this is still cold. Don't get me wrong, this is still cold. It's just warmer compared to what they are normally accustomed to, and that makes sense. These maps can be a little confusing when you think of the reds and the blues there, indicating like, 30s versus, 80s or something like that. That's not the case. These are compared to the normals. You got to remember that. But I do think the pattern is going to be one that's going to repeat itself for a while. We've seen this get established where you're getting these systems that are moving in across the southern part of the United States. Sometimes they can be very intense low pressures like we just had on the eastern seaboard. At the same time, these cold attacks keep sneaking in from these stronger high pressures that are moving into eastern Canada, allowing for the cold air, just like we saw last night and this morning, that gets pulled down. Not every system that develops in the southern part of the United States is going to be able to pull on that cold air like the most recent one did. But the players are on the field that certainly can keep repeating itself to where you can get additional systems that develop in the southern United States. They either move very slow or they linger along the eastern seaboard. And if there's another piece of energy moving through that gets grabbed a hold of, it will once again yank it down, and you get a taste of fairly cold air, allowing for a much more of a winter scenario for the eastern United States or the Ohio Valley. But these type of events and this type of a setup is not lasting cold. It has a very short amount of staying power with it. That is going to be the challenge, not only for you snow lovers, but certainly for meteorologists, because we're going to be pulling our hair out, because you're not going to see that merging or that perfect alignment very well into the time period and the distance. You're going to have to focus on a short-term outlook, which is what we've been saying for a while is going to be the way the winter is likely going to be. And now I'm seeing everything really lock in on that idea that this is going to be a lot of short-range forecasting, a lot of anything on the wintry side, because you're not going to see huge Arctic outbreaks right now diving in across the eastern United States. And while the cold is there, it's on it's on the other side of the globe. So it doesn't have a path to really just come in and invade. And that's okay. That's okay. I really don't think you guys want that. You don't want that true Arctic air to move in. Yeah, it does tend to lock in the idea that if you were to get any system to move through, it's going to be something wintry. But the risk is there for it to be overwhelmed with cold and dry, and your storm track, as far as anything wintry, gets shoved down to Florida or Georgia. And that's what really gets the snow lovers mad when they get it. Then I really hear about it. So the marginal events, while they are frustrating, I do think they could be some decent surprises. You can get some interesting winter weather out of that. And the snow doesn't stick around for a long period of time. So it's actually really a win-win. You get a nice little taste of some wintry weather, nice little thumping of snow, a lot of forecast challenges. You love that challenge of the forecast and trying to figure out how the system is going to evolve. While it is stressful, it can be fun. But once they do hit, they don't have a lot of impact for a long period of time. So I think that's a better ordeal that we get. Yes, I know the risk with that is that we could end up with a lot of rain systems and not much in the way of snow. But you got to pick your battles here on this one, guys. So this is the GFS pattern for the beginning of January. And I like what it's doing only because it matches the Euro idea fairly well, on the idea that we're going to keep slinging around these systems that have a lot of moisture with them, developing into the southern United States. They may get sluggish and slow at times, and there is still a chance to get some sneak attack cold that may move in from the north and east. But it's going to look a little weird at times on some of these low pressures as they move across the lower 48. Here's the new long-term Euro, just came out this morning. This is into early January. Notice it's got colder than normal across Kentucky, south, warmer to the north. And you got to keep in mind, while this looks like, this is going to be a brutal setup for cold weather for our area, it's anytime you see that signal of warm here and then cold here, that should tell you that it's not an Arctic outbreak is how you're getting this blue that is showing up. It is the active storm track that is doing that is allowing for a cloudier setup, much more active on rain systems moving through across the southern United States, much more drier here and sunnier. So they therefore have a chance to get a little bit above on the temperature side. But you end up with a very active storm track that moves into the southeast corner of the United States and right here in the Ohio Valley. These are the ones you can watch that can develop and produce their own cold at times, the upper lows that develop. And that's how you get some of the snow surprises that can sneak up. So here's what it looks like in the actual model runs. I'll show you both of them. Here's the Euro. It's got rain showers, by the way, moving in Friday. So a weak little wave that passes on by. It tries to phase with a little wave here into Canada. They don't really fully connect. So it's kind of just an open wave of showers on Friday. Scoots on by fairly quick. We get toward Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Another low pressure moves out. Here's the challenge for the Christmas holiday for the rest of 2023. Low pressures, multiple little waves will be moving in off the Rockies. They will tend to either stall or want to cut a little more toward the Great Lakes. At the same time, remember, there is more energy coming in across the Gulf. That would allow for other areas of low pressure to develop at the base of where that moisture flow is developing. And then these low pressures also will be tracking to the north and east. Some of these will be slow. Some of these could be strong at times as they move through the eastern part of North America. As they make this journey, I do see an opportunity where they can make their own cold air, and that's where we can get to maybe some wintry weather before the year is even over with. I do not see that happening through Christmas, but you get beyond Christmas, you start to see where you got one low pressure. Here's one, in fact, that moved right into the Ohio Valley. Now look at that. There's your rain snow line right there into Illinois and into Indiana. We're in the deformation zone, or near it anyway, on this particular low pressure. That can allow for dynamic cooling to take place. You get your pocket right there, a little pocket of blue. This is not Arctic cold, but it's just a pocket of blue that can allow for a thumping of snow right underneath it. But we don't know where that will be. That's the challenge. It may be in the Midwest. If so, yeah, we get skipped. It could be right over Ohio. It could be over Kentucky. But I do think that opens the door for the storyline that we're going to face with several more systems like that. They'll look very much on the similar side of these producing their own snow as they move through. Here's the GFS. Again, the rainfall, little wave here on Friday. Now for Christmas, it actually is a little slower without wave. So it tries to keep Christmas morning dry. It's more Christmas night, and the day after rain develops. Again, one low pressure moves on by, scoots into the upper Midwest. Here comes the second one, moving in across the southern part of the United States. It takes over. You can already see what's about to happen here. You're going to get a stronger low pressure. You get into the upper low right here that allow for the dynamic cooling, and boom, it goes to snow. This is the 28th of December that it has here for that chance for the rain to go over snow, and then it moves on out. Now, the GFS may be too cold here, and that's the reason why it's got a lot of snow. It may not be as cold as this, so we don't know for sure. It's pretty far out in time, but you get the idea. The snow map is going to look weird this season. I think you're going to end up with a lot of snow events. They're going to be kind of blotchy like this through the Tennessee, Ohio Valley, and even New England at times, and you're going to have nothing that may be on the ground at all in the upper Midwest. Yes, it's true. If you want to get the cold Arctic air that dives in from Canada to go all the way to Kentucky, you got to get snow on the ground here. Otherwise, friction of the bare ground would warm the air, and you don't get the cold to go all the way to Kentucky. But as I've been trying to stress, this is not that type of setup for winter right now. This is not factoring in the idea of cold Arctic blast coming in off the Midwest and the Great Lakes. This is accounting for an active storm track that certainly has a lot of warm air involved. All right. It does have the warm air. So rain is going to be likely with every one of them. But if they can get strong enough and deepen, you get to that time of the year, and certainly a strong enough upper low, you can create your own cold and you can create your own snow events with these systems. That's what we need to watch out for. That's going to make the snowboard a pain. It's going to be tough to put things out far out, but I promise you we're going to be watching each one of these and looking at trends. Try not to get too excited like this particular run in the GFS. It will not look like this probably the next run. Probably the next 3 days, it may not look like this. Don't get caught up on that. Just understand the pattern and how we get to that, and kind of just trend it and watch it, and that's how you kind of evolved into a forecast. If you react too much to this setup for December 28th, and it'll burn you. It will burn you. All right. You don't want it to show that too early, right? So there you go. Does that all make sense? Type 1, if you got all that. I think you guys are good, but I wanted to explain this is going to be a bit of an unusual setup for the winter. I think this will hold all the way through likely early February. After that, I don't know. I really don't. I need to see how the data trends after that point. But at least the next 3 to 4 week window, I do not see cold air as far as Arctic air invading the eastern United States. But I do see the potential for an active storm track, and that's step 1 is to get moisture. Step 2 is to get just enough cold. You don't need the Arctic cold, just enough cold to get things a little more exciting. So I think it's fun. I think it's fun. A kid that is going to be stressful because it will be, but I think if you guys really want some fun, wintry setups with this this kind of a winter pattern, this is the pattern that can deliver. It can really create a lot of surprises and fun on that. So this is what I remember about winters as a kid, to be honest, these kind of messy systems like this. So there you go. Olivia, real quick, a question on the rain over Christmas. It depends on that second low that moves in as we head into Christmas night. Let me back up. This is the GFS, but that low right in through here. And this one's got it more on December 26th into the 27th. So they vary a bit on timing. Right now, I don't see it being overly heavy, but I would think at this point, heavier rain out of that low could fall within a 12 to 24 hour period, either near Christmas Day or maybe just after that on the 26th. But there is a chance, yes, that some of that could be heavy. I'm not going to rule that out. I don't see it right now for Christmas morning. Once we get past that, then fun. All right. Angela, could the volcanic eruption in Iceland have any kind of impact on the winter weather patterns ahead and the polar vortex? What a great question. In case you guys are wondering again, this is what Angela's talking about, the live eruption right now in Iceland. Here's the thing. It's a very good question because in the past, we've had volcanic eruptions that have produced enough ash into the atmosphere that have influenced the winters. You guys probably remember the infamous event of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines. It did that in 1991. That did allow for a colder setup that eventually led to the colder winters of 93 and 94. You guys remember that, correct? There's a bit of delay that happens there. It's such a high in latitude, it's unlikely to cause a huge disruption in this kind of a setup. All right, I'm not seeing any signal for that. I do think, though, they need to watch the ash setup with this when it comes to air travel. We saw that in Europe a few years ago. It affected air travel across the globe. So there is a chance it could affect at least flight patterns. I don't know yet on the climate side of things. It depends on how the next week or two goes here for this particular volcano. But it's such a high latitude event. They usually do not affect much of the mid latitudes in our area down the road. But what a great question. Thank you so much for asking. All right. So hang in there, guys. I mix of good and bad news, I guess, today. I know it's going to be a green Christmas this year, but at least we do have some fun and games to track as we head out to the end of the year and perhaps even for the New Year's Eve setup too. Something we'll be watching. All right. So kind of relax. We had a tenth of an inch of snow. Hey, that's baby steps, right? Can't make a snowman out of it, but no, it's all right. No snow angels today, but try to warm up. Enjoy the sunshine. I'll see you guys coming up on midday.